Hello and welcome to the Perth Gaming Crew Show, episode 29. It is a lovely, lovely day in Perth today. Bit of a breeze, and today we have a very special guest. Thea, thank you so much for joining today. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Little tired because we're doing this early in the morning and it's weekend, but I'll live.
Yeah, understandable. People of Perth and beyond, it's still a pretty early morning here. So yeah, today we wanted to cover some of the huge role-playing games that have come out this year. There's been Baldur's Gate, there's been the Cyberpunk update, super exciting. Diablo 4's been all over the media, lots of people playing that, and also Hogwarts Legacy is selling like absolute hotcakes. It's still in the top 5 charts in the UK. So we know a lot of you are playing that, and we are just dying to talk about this game. So between us, Thea and I have been playing, the 4 games, 2 for me and 2 for her. But Thea, before we get on, we always do ask all of our guests, what is your favorite game of all time and why?
So I'm going to stick in theme with the RPG. And for me, it's now Baldur's Gate. It's
Baldur's
outshone.
Gate 3?
Yes, exactly. So Baldur's Gate 3, the newest one. Before that, it would have been Mass Effect, actually.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Mass Effect trilogy, or was it like
Yeah,
the
no, the
first or
whole
second,
trilogy.
or the
You
whole the
can't
whole
just take
shebang?
one on. Yeah, you can't just take one on its own. It's all part of a really important story. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And there was that recent remaster package that came out that's on all the modern consoles and PC
Yeah,
too.
so that's what
If
we've got.
anyone. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, it's
nice.
well worth it. Well
Nice.
worth it. And it comes with all the DLC that wasn't included in the original game, so you're getting like the full story, full depth. So it's well worth the buy.
There's like 100 hours just in that package there. And like in my view, so we did a special about it, and in my view, it's like still one of the greatest RPGs around. Like it's got
It's incredible.
such good value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Awesome. So yeah, we want to cover some of the big RPGs today. So let's start with the biggest and potentially the best. I hear you have been playing quite a little bit of a little known game called Baldur's Gate 3, which may be like in line for Game of the Year. It looks incredible. I myself haven't played it. I know it kind of usurped Starfield when Starfield came out, and there was a bit of interest in
Yeah.
that, and then Baldur's Game came out, and people thought, "Oh my god!" The Xbox players are still waiting for it to come to that platform, but it is on PS5 and PC. So, what is Baldur's Gate 3? Can you tell us what it is?
Right. So it is the third Baldur's Gate game in a series. Though the original Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 kind of like follow on the same story.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a bit of a pair there where you play the main protagonist and you work your way through a complex story with the first 2 games. So this is a standalone. It
Okay.
doesn't follow on at all from the original 1 and 2. Um, and it is, I guess, kind of high fantasy, steampunky role playing
Hmm.
game. You get to create really intricate characters, and they really went above and beyond with the level of depth that you can edit your characters.
Cool.
I think there was a oh man, I'm trying to keep this as PG as possible.
I mean,
Um,
that's okay. We swear and we do show blood and like blood and violence and stuff. So
yeah, just the depth of choice that you have when like creating your characters, and then they
yep.
introduce some new really interesting components like Dark Urge, which I haven't played yet, but I really want to play.
Okay.
I feel like it's meant to be played with Dark Urge, so I
Oh,
think
okay.
Dragonborn is new as well.
Okay.
Which is so impressive. I've started to come across Dragonborn now that I'm in Baldur's Gate, actually in the game, and
Mm-hmm.
they're intense. They're so cool.
Mm.
They have really great personalities though, and the scales really
Hmm.
cool. The art style's phenomenal. You need to kind of guide me here, man, because I will just talk and
No, no, that's it. That's it. Like, so Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't played it yet. Like a lot of people out there playing it. It's not one of the best selling games at the moment, but like lots of people are trying it. I played the first and the second back in ye old times, like isometric, top down. You were saying you don't need to play those for the story. Do you need to know about the lore and all of those kind of things, or can you just
it
start
helps.
fresh?
It
Yeah,
helps.
yep.
So for those of you that have played 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
Vince is going to come.
Oh,
Wait, I know, I'm sorry,
yes.
I'm spoiling
Vince can
because
boo? No, that's fine. That's good to know. We love that.
yeah. So there are definitely like I recently raided a tomb and found one of the corpses of a dead character from the original Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Oh,
And
nice. So cool.
was not impressed that I was looting his body. Um,
Yep.
but I don't want to give too much away, but there are so many kind of like Easter eggs in there for people that have played the first and second. I think
Awesome.
another thing to consider as well that it was a different developer that worked on the first and second games, so the art style is different and the
Hmm.
narrative writing is different. Um,
Hmm.
so I didn't play the original 1 and 2, Ed did, and could see a really big difference in the way that the stories are kind of woven together and the art style and character development and things like that. We
Okay.
played another game from the developer, Divinity Original Sin,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yep.
yeah, there is so much of that in Baldur's Gate. I think Baldur's Gate is
Okay.
what Divinity Original Sin should have been.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, right.
It's fantastic. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the relationships, the companions, the dialogue, they've really kind of smashed everything out of the park with this game.
Well, I wanted to like ask about graphics because we played a little bit of the trailer there, and I think one of the big things that people didn't expect, or I mean, I know this has been early access, but this game looks incredible. Like the
Yeah,
facial
it does.
animations, the camera angles. Like, what's your experience like with the visual aspect of this game? Have you had any bugs, and how are you finding the visuals in terms of like pulling you into that game experience?
So I can talk on two levels here because I have it on PlayStation and PC.
Okay.
You know, for full
Yeah.
range of experience.
Okay.
On the PlayStation, we've had issues where the graphics aren't loading as well as they could be. So things like, I was talking about the scales on the
Hmm.
PC because I've got a really good gaming laptop. It's amazing. The details
Hmm.
incredible. It's just as good as the trailer. Um, the motion, the facial expressions, it blows you away, even in the most minor of talks with your companions. Whereas
Yeah.
on the PlayStation, depending on like your connection to the internet, there'll be moments where your face looks a little sus at times. The
Okay.
makeup might not be
Bit of that
very
face
good,
jank that makes them like creep out and look into the abyss and all that stuff that we see in like the Fallout games. Yeah, yeah. Yep.
which is a
Yep.
bit unfortunate. But I think that they more
Yeah.
than make up for it in the story, because
Okay.
you'll be so overwhelmed with like the depth of the story and so brought into the characters and their dialogue that when those your makeup's a bit blurry or you can't
Mm-hmm.
quite see the tattoo you put on your face, it really doesn't detract too much from the rest of it.
Okay, cool. And like one of the biggest things about RPGs is like the character creation. You did allude earlier that there's quite a lot to it. Whether you want to go into that or not, that's fine. But in terms of your character, what did you create and what did you enjoy about
Oh,
that process for
okay.
this game?
So I think one of the things that I've been teased about a bit by my friends is that I've got 4 games going at the moment.
Oh
Um,
wow!
I know, I'm sorry. I can't help myself. There's just so many ways to play this game, and I want to cover everything. So I have a wizard, a warlock, a bard, and a ranger.
Cool.
Um, and again, just trying to get as much depth as I can into this. So my two
Mm-hmm.
main ones, though, I'll talk about. So I've got Tevinter and Ferelden. For
Okay.
anyone who's ever played Dragon Age, that was the last game I played before this. And when I seen Tav, I was like, oh, Tevinter, obviously. Um, so one is a tiefling and she's
Mm-hmm.
a wizard.
Is
And
Tiefling a bit? I am a bit of a noob at this. Is it like a Hobbit type thing? Yeah.
no,
No.
no,
Oh god. Is it a giant? Oh god.
Um, they're typically quite tall. So if
Okay.
you've seen the companion Karlach, think like horns. Usually they've got like 3 sub races where you've got like
Okay.
Asmodeus, or so the skin color kind of changes depending. So they're demonic creatures. They're not
Okay.
actually demonic, but they've
They
got the
present that way. Yeah.
yeah, the horns, the tail. They've got that kind of skin color, and a
Oh,
lot of them
super
have like
cool.
black eyes and things like that. They're really cool. They're very misunderstood, and they play a really big role in this game and its story. And they're
Okay.
some of the first races that you'll kind of come across and interact with as well. So every character, every race that you play will give you a unique experience playing through Baldur's Gate. So
Mm-hmm.
my other one, for Ferelden, is a drow, which are from the Underdark, and they're typically considered to be like quite not, I wouldn't say evil, but very like flippant, very like, what do you say?
Like
Um,
sarcastic, kind
yeah,
of
yeah, like
cheeky, a
they're
bit
not
abrasive,
evil.
maybe, or
Yeah, exactly. A
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
abrasive, kind of
yeah.
does what they want kind of person. And your interactions and how people interact with you will be based on the race that you play. So, how tieflings perceive you, how humans, how drow, and how they interact, and the options that you have to engage with dialogue all change depending on what
Mm-hmm.
race you are. And then it further changes depending on what class you are as well. So,
Mm.
if you're a wizard, one of your companions will Gale, he's also a wizard, loves you, loves that you have this connection to the weave like he does. But if you're a warlock, for instance, he'll be like, well, you're not really magical, are you? I know,
Wow.
I
Well,
know.
call it for what it is. Thanks, friend.
But it's
uh,
fantastic. And that's what I mean by like, I can have 4 games going and I've sank over 300 hours into the game.
wow, that's
I, I
incredible.
know. And
Oh,
the sad part is I'm only on like Act 3 and I haven't actually, I'm at the
yeah.
gates of Baldur's Gate. I'm
Okay.
not even in the city yet. So
Yeah.
um,
No,
it's
that's
just
awesome. Like 300 hours is still a lot of
it's
experience. Like
so
it.
much, and there are still things that I'm uncovering in other playthroughs that I didn't find on my first or second one. Where I'm like, oh, how did I not find that? I wish I found that there.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so this is a time sink, but one of the things that, and I think this is why it may likely become Game of the Year, is
Hmm.
everything that I uncover in the game, every secret, every letter, every puzzle, all ties back into the world and gives it purpose. There is nothing there that doesn't play a role or that you can't interact with or that doesn't grow the world in some way. Um,
Hmm.
you find 3 bits of a thing and suddenly you can make a new weapon, or you collect a series of letters and you find that person at the gates of Baldur's Gate and you can tell them about what happened to their loved one. And it all gives you experience and broadens the world, and gives you really a gameplay like nothing I've quite experienced before.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard it's like quite a standout game. Like it just hits all the levels right. The visuals, the story, the characters, like the gameplay itself. I guess the last question I wanted to ask you around this was like, is what makes this the best game that you've experienced? Is there one particular element for you, or is it just everything?
I mean, a little bit of everything, but I think the biggest thing would be the companions,
Okay,
because
yeah.
it makes all the difference, really. And I think for anyone who's like a really in-depth Baldur's Gate player, like I have been, you can't wait for your long rest to
Yep.
see what's going to happen next. What is the next development of their stories, and how's that going to
Mm-hmm.
affect you? And then how's that affect your relationship with them? Because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
relationship person, and I love a really good story, and I love to like weave my way into that. So it's been pretty great.
Yeah, nice. No, like I think that is like a key element for any good RPG, like single player, where you're creating a character or the character's pre-created for you. Is like you feel like you're interacting, involved with your companions.
Yeah,
That's awesome. We are definitely going to have to check out Baldur's Gate a bit more. I think.
absolutely.
The next game I wanted to cover was one that I've been playing, which has been pretty big this year too. It was originally released quite a while ago, and it's just had the 2.0 update, and there's also the Phantom Liberty expansion, Cyberpunk 2077. So I've probably put about, I'd say about 20 to 30, maybe 20, 25 hours into this at the moment. Where to even start? So this is probably like the best cyberpunk experience, like from the RPG roots that you can have at the moment. It is incredibly immersive. Like you go to sit down, and your character just looks down at the seat and then puts their hand up on the table, and there's a coffee in front of you, and you're having a conversation with someone. The camera pulls like right into like people's faces, like when they're angry with you, or if you got someone up against the wall. Like it's very intense that way. Wow, I don't even know where to start. I'm absolutely loving this game. So when it first came out, I didn't even look at it. I saw the reviews and the bugs. It was bug central, and I don't think it should have been released back on like the Xbox One, PlayStation 4. So I'm playing it on Series X. I haven't had a single bug in my entire playthrough. And it's been really sharp and really smooth. So I'm so glad I've come to the party late, so to speak. But yeah, it's based in like kind of near future. The most telltale sign is like everyone's kind of got like cyber tech equipped in their face or their body to enhance themselves, and that's a big part of the narrative too. Like how far do people go, and how does that interact with things like corporate greed, loneliness, separation from family, and things like that. Thea, have you heard about this game or seen it or played it before?
Yeah, so a little bit of all of that.
Uh
I
huh.
read the reviews like you, and it was something that I was interested in, but I just didn't have the time when it came out to really dedicate to playing it. But once we got it and we started playing it, so Ed, my husband, was the one sitting playing that, and I love a good story. So even when I don't have the time, I'm more than happy to sit and be a companion to watch. And as an English teacher, it blew me away. Like, as I
Hmm.
said, love good storytelling. And when you're talking about those camera angles and how it pulls into people, and you're really getting put into that perspective of the person going through those events, that's what really
Hmm.
got me. I think that's what makes it really distinctly different from games like Baldur's Gate with the RPG style and how it tells the story. Is you're not out of body, right? You're put into
Yeah, yeah, you feel like you're right in that character, like that's your
yeah,
character, that's
you
you, right?
sympathize your emotions,
Yeah.
your experiences. It makes it so real and it's so brutal, but it
Yes.
needs to be.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. There's one, I mean, one of the early scenes, actually it's not really spoiling anything, but I think it's good to give this example. There's like where your character is getting stitched up after like a horrendous fight and an almost near death experience, and you're in the chair, and you're getting your because your eyes are linked in with like cyber related software, and it's just so well done. You feel like, wow, what's going on? Yeah, it's a terrific game. For me, the standout to this game is that the it sets up kind of like set pieces. I think with RPGs, sometimes you can go into an RPG game and go, all right, I've got to do this side quest, that side quest, that side quest. And you feel like you're pushing yourself to get through the game
yeah,
sometimes. Whereas
yeah,
this game, I feel like it pulls you in, and the actual missions you do are just fantastic kind of set pieces. Like, so one of the early missions, for example, is you're going to rescue someone from a chop shop, which is like this place where people just kidnap people who've got implants and then they cut them up and they sell their cybernetics to other people. So it's horrendous. You go in there, there's a sense of foreboding. You've got one of your companions, and kind of like what you were saying with Baldur's Gate, your companions in this game are like, oh, just so cool, like so interesting with great facial animation, all that kind of thing. Yeah, you're in this situation and it's harrowing, and you're kind of moving through this room and going, oh my goodness, like is the person I need to rescue, are they alive? How's it going to pan out? And the way you play that situation really depends on your own skills as well. Thea, one thing about this game, like I wanted to ask you, are you interested in the setting, and also are you interested in the variety of gameplay type experiences in an RPG that it would offer? Like, if you were interested in this.
yeah, absolutely. I'm not like a one genre kind of person. And it's similar to, it reminds me of a book that I read once, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the title to save
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
But it's the same kind of setting in this kind of dystopian far future where you've had all of this tech brought in, and there's that corrupt government, and this need to, or sense to, like, I need to make sense of this world and kind of either come to terms with it or overthrow it. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate the difference in gameplay that it has
Hmm.
to other games like Baldur's Gate or more high fantasy role playing games, which I think that when we hear the term role playing games is what we think of.
Yes,
But this
yes.
offers such a unique experience, and
Yeah.
I think what makes it really unsettling as well, particularly now, is it feels like, well, it doesn't feel as unrealistic as maybe it would have, when I was a teenager. It's like,
Yeah,
oh
where
my god,
everyone's in like pink pants and like is flying skateboards or whatever, like Back to the Future style. It's all a bit campy,
yeah.
yeah.
But you look at where tech's going now and all of that, and even like the terms of like you have that mission with the chop shop. Well, we
Mm.
have chop shops for cars, and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel that much of a stretch to say, well, maybe 10, 20 years in the future when we start having these, think third world countries, where we already have issues with black trade markets for human organs. It's really not a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what
I
makes
completely agree.
this game so brutal and
Yeah.
pulls you in so much. It's like, it's not
Yeah.
that far from our world.
No, no, you're not wrong at all. Like it feels like this feels like a very lived-in world, which I think is also like another big plus for RPGs if you want the whole experience. And even that sense of being in the future, but realistically in the future, is definitely apparent. Like you can, so for example, the police are around, and we've seen all this in GTA and games like that. But when you're in a car, it just feels quite immersive and realistic to be driving around. But if you hit someone or there's a crash, the coppers can show up. Violence can just erupt on the street, and it's all quite organic. And it feels like it could have just actually happened if that's what had happened in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then some of those long-term things like the rise of corporations, which people are concerned about now, but feels like that's a bit more highlighted because of the way things have gone with the focus on tech, and then how that's shaped people's relationships too. So yeah, I mean, for anyone out there who hasn't played Cyberpunk, like Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk, they are absolutely quality games. They're so good. They are. I don't know how big Baldur's Gate is, but Cyberpunk I think has eaten all of my Xbox storage, and the patches just keep coming in. So
Oh, but, in terms of just as like a forewarning for anyone who wants to play Baldur's Gate on the PC or the PlayStation, we
yeah,
had to uninstall everything. I have no other games
yeah,
on my PC at the moment.
wow,
It
really,
was mega. It took
yep,
me over 24 hours to install it.
wow,
It's
yep.
insanely big. Yeah.
Yeah, I when I got Cyberpunk, I had a massive update, and then it had I had to install it. Took forever overnight, and then it had to install the 2.0 update, and then there was another recent patch. Although I hadn't noticed any issues between the 2.0 update and the recent patch, but you needed, of course, to play. It's just one of those things. Like I don't know, it's like RPGs are a commitment, but they also take up all of your space. Hey,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, okay, so
Um,
that's Cyber. Yeah,
just before you move on with the
yeah.
Cyberpunk, I'd recommend anyone who enjoyed that game. So that means you too, Jono. If you haven't, on Netflix is the Cyberpunk series.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen it, so tell me a bit about that.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
No
It's very
spoilers.
it's very similar to the game and those experiences. So the world won't feel like new. You won't have to kind of learn anything new. It's as if it's been taken from another person's perspective living in that world, and that's really all
Yeah.
it is. And it's so graphic, really well written, and all of those elements that you love from the narrative point of view with the game Cyberpunk is just put into that TV series. It's really brutal and it's very bittersweet at the end, but it's really well worth the watch. So if you like that game or you've liked the series on Netflix, then play the game because I think those two like combined really just broaden that world.
That is so cool. Like I think I recall hearing about it and it dropped off. I don't know when that came out, but I can see myself after playing this game going, "Oh, I just want a bit more cyberpunk," and just like see what a streaming interpretation looks like. That's awesome. Great reviews. Oh, I love it. So the next game we're going to go into is a little known game by Blizzard called Diablo IV, which like this year is full of bangers. Like there's Street Fighter 6, there's Baldur's Gate, there's the Cyberpunk update, there's Mario Wonder that's just come out. There's probably 20 game of the years to choose from. There's something for everyone. Diablo 4 it's been an interesting one. Like it was a huge launch, quite successful, generally well received, and then there's been patches that a lot of people don't like. I haven't played it. It is on my backlog. Thea, I understand you have played it. Can you tell us just a little bit about what Diablo 4 is first, and then your experiences?
Yeah, so it's a oh man, how to use the correct terminology for this? It's
Oh,
like a fight-based game,
yeah.
and particularly in this one, you are going up against another like big bad, right? So Lilith has come back from the dead. I'm sorry, there's got to be spoilers. So,
So that's all right. I think like we've seen the trailers with Lilith, and
yeah,
it's like she's super creepy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think like I'll go off like my first impression was I seen the trailer and I had not long since finished playing the previous Diablo with my husband, and I was like, oh, I need to play it. Obviously, I need to play it because I love the last one so much.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like those graphics that we talk about in terms of those cinematic scenes were just stunning, and that really
Mm.
captivated me to start with. Like it immediately pulls you into the game because it starts a bit like
Mm.
a movie, right? And you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm sold, I want to go into it. um but I was then immediately kind of pulled back with character creation,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I found to be quite disappointing.
Is
And
that because is that based on your previous experiences with Diablo, or is that because you have
just in
those other
general,
experiences
like
with Baldur's Gate kind of
a
thing?
little bit. I hadn't
Mm.
had that experience yet because Baldur's Gate came out
Mm.
after Diablo, but
Okay.
I think that in a world like where technology is advanced as far as it has, and spending as much time and money that they did on Diablo, that they could have given you a little bit more in terms of options when it came to creating your character because it's so important. Like you think about RPG games, you're role playing, you need to like and empathize and want to be that person that you've created. And I felt that there was like this distinct distance between me and the person that I was actually playing in Diablo. Um,
Mm.
so I was a bit disappointed. Partly, I wanted to be is it, I don't know if you call it a druid. I think
Yeah,
it was.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I wanted to be the druid, but you're very stuck. It's like, oh, you're a big bulky druid, and you're very preset as. And I don't want to sound very vain, but I want to be a pretty druid, and it was.
Damn it! Is there no helmet of like beautification or something?
Beautify.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just felt like if you want to be this kind of person, that's what you're going to look like.
Hmm.
You don't have a choice, and that was a bit
Hmm.
disappointing. But I pushed on regardless, and I was like, it's
Hmm.
fine. I'll still love the game, and I did really like the first section where you're working through. Okay, so you're in this really grey, snowy area, and you have to find out what's going on, and that kind of like intrigue and stuff. And then you have these bits and pieces popping up where Lilith is kind of like coming out, and she's causing chaos in the towns, and you're trying to unravel. Well, what are her next steps? What is it that she's
Hmm.
doing? So there is that intrigue there in that story. Um, I don't necessarily have a problem with the story or even the graphics or anything because I really enjoyed that and I like the smashy,
Hmm.
smashy monster parts.
Hmm.
Um, but my issue was that it is on a server.
Hmm.
Um, I found at points that it was lagged so much I couldn't play.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So
Yep.
we were playing on the console, so not PC or anything like that. But it
Yep.
was just you're on a server. You're not the only person there, so you're not the only hero, which further takes you out of that experience where okay, so now there's 10 people on this server, and we're all going to go fight this same big bad, and we have to wait our turns to do that.
Hmm.
So that it can like regenerate and reset, and it takes you out of it so much. And
Hmm.
I think that that was what kind of made me not play as much as I really wanted to
Hmm.
because the story wasn't compelling enough to have me work through all the things that I didn't necessarily like about it. And I
Yep.
think the other thing is if you're in it for the XP and you're a grinder, this is your game. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I.
but I'm a
Oh,
story
go
person.
ahead. Yeah, I get that. I think Diablo, like we've bundled it under this conversation around RPGs, and it's kind of known as one of the big RPGs, the isometric top-down, and it's started its own genre back in the days. It's got its big group of followers, but I think something you touched on is like the main difference. Like you look at games like Baldur's Gate and Cyberpunk, they are story-driven, character-driven, and Diablo is that looter hack and slash grind-driven with a layer of all right, here's some excellent
Yeah,
graphics, here's a bit of story, and here's your limited choice in characters. So I think like they are very different types of games, and I think Diablo can be a little bit like not like a casino game, but you know what you're doing, you know the formula. It's pretty to look at,
yeah,
but if you're looking for that deep story experience, or you're looking for that, yeah, just something a bit more immersive, you're not going to get that with this kind of game as well
yeah,
compared to
exactly.
those other ones.
I'm going to say
Um,
something so mean. For me, it's like a glorified mobile game.
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's interesting because I think Diablo 4 was and is always going to be what it turned out to be. A better looking, a bit more seamless. a couple of extra features that people always wanted for people who have played 1, 2, 3 and kind of grew up with those games, and they're looking for that. And I don't think the developers could divert from that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like when you've got these diverse game experiences and you hear it, like yeah, if you've only come to Diablo relatively recently, you're like, oh, this looks pretty good, and there is a focus on the story more, but nothing compared to these other two games we've just gone through. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't give you that. It is like, oh, I'm literally clicking constantly to kill all the wolves and then kill all the monsters, and whether you want that mindless hacker slash it's that kind of game,
Yeah.
but it is touted as an RPG game. But I think it's more that side of things from what I'm hearing from you as well, from your
I think it's like
experiences.
really important as well to have that distinction between the two. That
Mm,
it doesn't mean that this is a bad game.
yeah.
It's what is your expectation and your experience with it? Because, like you said, this is like one of four, and people have grown up generationally with this. This has been their go-to.
Mm-hmm.
I have played all the previous ones, and I really do enjoy it. But I also think that as I've grown up and my interests have changed,
Mm,
I'm more of a because I'm not a strategic person, and to some
mm-hmm.
level, you have to know how these weapons work and how
Yes,
to
the
stack them
plus
up.
three
So
percent ice damage, and then
yeah,
minus. Yeah, you have to like.
exactly.
It's all about max, like min maxing and all that stuff they
Yeah,
call it.
exactly.
Yeah,
So my
yep.
my brother-in-law plays this game, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a min maxer. He loves the
Yep.
grind. He has all the
Yep.
best everything, and we're
Yep.
at the same amount of time in, and I'm like, why am I still dying? Why do I
Yep.
not know how to do this? And
Yeah,
it's just
yeah, and
how
it's almost like an unwritten thing, isn't it? Where you need to know that's how the game's played. It's like I know I need to constantly increase my loot to beat the next level of monsters, and some people just love that hook. They just love that little bit of shiny gear, get the complete set, and
yeah.
that's what you kind of isn't it? Isn't it? Like except the helmet of beautification. That's like where is it gone? There is no.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and he's quite the opposite in that he's played Baldur's Gate as well, and he doesn't like it. Not the way he's like, it's okay,
Mm.
it's an okay game, but he's like, how do I level
Mm.
up? Why is there like a
Ah.
maximum amount I could level up? So
Mm.
for him, it's like, oh, a game all about like emotions and story. Yeah, no thanks. Like I'm
Mm.
just gonna smash the monsters. So
Mm.
it is important being able to cover that diversity of games and say, well, you know what, they're very different. So we're really comparing apples and oranges here.
You're right, and you actually raised a good point about the differences in like starting and seeing either side as a new person. Oh, it makes me want to come back to what we were saying about Baldur's Gate and Cyberpunk. With those games, because they are those complex, big RPGs with so many elements done well, do you think? I mean, you've got 4 different characters in Baldur's Gate, but do you think those are games that, in general, are games you can pick up and play and still enjoy, knowing what you're getting into, even though other people have had a different experience? Do you think, in general, if you're looking for a good RPG, you can go, "Oh yeah, Baldur's Gate is something that I can just pick up and play and really enjoy."
Yes and no. I think you'll
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it more if you have a bit of an understanding about not necessarily Baldur's Gate itself, but also
Mm.
role playing games in general. Like,
Mm.
it's no secret that it's based off Dungeons and Dragons. Baldur's
Mm-hmm.
Gate 3 is specifically based off 5e edition, which for
Mm-hmm.
anyone who's not a massive nerd like me is different from Baldur's
Mm-hmm.
Gate 1 and 2, who are based off a different set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
So to get really in-depth experience for those kind of games, it always helps to understand the law and the rules and things like that. But your fun and your relationship and the experience that you have with that isn't dependent on understanding how that works. You can work it out
Mm.
as you go. You're still going to be fine, and you roll the dice, and part of it is just luck as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas I think that's the difference between Baldur's Gate and Diablo. Whereas Diablo, it's like not
Mm.
really an element of luck there. You have to kind of know what you're doing and
Yeah, exactly.
dedication to figure it out.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just to finish the discussion on Diablo, what did you enjoy about Diablo 4? Like having played the previous games and knowing what you were getting into and all that kind of thing. I haven't played it yet. There are things I am excited for, and it's a game I'm going, oh, it's there. I might get it. It's if there's nothing else I really want to play. Was there anything you really did enjoy in particular, or you think there's something for people to look forward to who are fans or who are new to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even though the story isn't as narrative driven as Baldur's Gate, it is really engaging, really interesting. Again,
Mm.
it kind of like hints back to the previous games as well. So, for the
Mm-hmm.
dedicated players that have played the previous games, you'll have those moments of like, oh, I know, like I remember this. And there's that sense of familiarity as well. So you are getting those new things that people have been asking for, but at the same time, it's not a totally new game in that, oh, now I have to relearn everything. So there's definitely things in there to look forward to. It's also a gigantic map. It's a massive world to explore.
Yeah. Is that good or bad? Like, because I remember the zones of the previous Diablos, and for me, sometimes the world can feel too big. But I heard it's not bad in this case. What's
I
your
don't, I
experience with
don't
that
think
been
it
like? Yeah.
I don't think it is bad in the sense that every zone has a specific thing that you need to do there. So it has
Mm.
a purpose, and I think that's what you need. You can't just have a big map and wander around and have half of it be useless.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's one element is you get drawn through each of those areas as you kind of progress through the story. So you unfold that map and you uncover it and explore this humongous world as part of progressing the story. So it's got purpose. It's quite good. I think that it could be overwhelming for some people, but I also think it's starting to become the expected norm in RPGs
Mm-hmm.
that you have this really
Yes.
big, almost fully
Yes.
open world. People
Yes.
don't seem to like the walls and the barriers.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? That like that's something Pat and I talked about earlier on this show a few times, where it's like if you don't create Skyrim or Breath of the Wild model, then the game isn't of value to a lot of people. I mean, for me personally, I don't like the overwhelming, gigantic worlds because I feel I have to do and see everything rather than I can do what I want. And I know people have a different attitude, but for me, it's like, oh my goodness, I have to do all this stuff, and I have to. I think something we did talk about offline is like I need for RPGs to like sit down for 2 or 3 hours to get something out of it. I can't pick up and play for
Yeah,
half an hour or
exactly.
something. Is that your experience too? Like, or is that how you feel
Yeah,
about
no,
these kind of worlds?
I'm the
Or
same as you in
yeah,
that way. And I actually said last night when I was playing Baldur's Gate, I
hmm,
said to my partners, I said, I think it's on the precipice of being too much.
hmm,
Like they've just reined it in enough that I can keep going. Um,
hmm,
but you go into this new map. The map's humongous. You go down a ladder. There's another humongous map. And similarly to you, I
hmm.
to see everything, open every chest. Like if it's
Yep,
there, I want to explore it. And that
yep,
is why you're 300 hours in and you're not even halfway through the game because there's
yeah,
more things to look at, and
yes,
I want to look at the things. So
yes,
I think that it can be a bit much for those people that can't just ignore that little section over there that I haven't yet explored.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it gives quite a lot.
I think that's like a testament to the quality of that game. And I would say it's the same of Cyberpunk 2, where you can go in and you can go, nah, I can explore the world or I can do everything and you can still have a good experience because it's very hard to go into a game and have that balance. Sometimes you just get put off and you're like, no, I can't, it's too much. And then some people will complain that the world isn't big enough. And some people will say it's too focused on the cinematic experience. I have to add one thing that I didn't mention earlier about Cyberpunk driving sequences, mwah, amazing. Like, just oh, play it for the driving. Like I could play that game just for the driving sequences, like the driving and shooting around, which is like its own little mini game. Which again, integrating that into a big game, fantastic. All right, we are starting to run out of time, so there is
Right.
one
Yes.
more game that we do need to cover, which is Hogwarts Legacy. This is one that I've been playing, and I would say I'm about 15 hours in. This is a very different experience to like, yeah, Diablo or Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk, and those two I think are quite close in some ways.
Mm.
Hogwarts Legacy, where to start? So this is basically you create your own student. It's really living the ultimate fantasy of the Harry Potter books. You're going to the school, you're going to the different classes. For people who are watching this on screen, yeah, they're going to like the herbal garden area. There's like the dark arts class. There's potions creation. So that's really cool. Like I think one thing this game does so well is it gives you that real genuine Harry Potter experience in terms of the world itself, exploring the grounds, going to Hogsmeade. If you can think of something that was in the Harry Potter movies, like you'll probably see it in this game. I think that's done very, very well. It definitely looks and feels like a Harry Potter universe game. Like my character is so polite. She's like, "Oh, I'd never do that in real life." Like there's just like, "Oh, that's a bit jarring going from Cyberpunk where I've just murdered 20 people and threatened someone to save someone and like bought this and done all this stuff." and hijacked a car. It's like, oh, now I'm being ultra polite and collecting pages for a book or something. It's a bit different. But I'm enjoying this game. My A couple of things I want to mention. First of all, the combat system is much better than I expected. Combat systems can often be pretty crap for RPGs. Sometimes it's like takes a back seat. I actually quite like it here. I think it's very hard to pull off like a spell casting type
Mm,
fighting system, because we've seen that kind of thing done generally with like third person shooters or in like tactical approaches, or like in Baldur's Gate as well. But this one is more like a dynamic, real time. You'll like Expelliarmus, and you'll disarm your opponent, and then you can draw them towards you, and then you can set them on fire, and then you can swing them over here. And it actually, I quite enjoyed it. I thought it's not perfect, but I think it's very hard to pull a system like that. So that was a highlight for me. What I would say about this game, my biggest challenge with this game, particularly coming off something like Cyberpunk, is that it is a bit plodding. It doesn't have like the highs and the intensity and the
mm,
consistency that I felt in that game. So quite early on in the game, it's quite interesting. Without spoiling things, you and the professor go to this area to find some kind of big secret thing. So let's just leave it at that. And it's quite immersive. You're in this beautiful waterfall area. You can see the sea, and then you come to Hogwarts, and then while you can go around to see a few different areas, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't consistently get better or consistently pull you in. It's like, all right, now I'm going to do that kind of side quest, or this main quest is a bit plodding for quite a while. Yeah, but how about you, Thea? Have you played
I've
this
been
game
really
or
looking
seen?
forward to
Yeah, yeah,
watching it.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because you've got all that spare time you've got with Baldur's Gate on the side as well. It's one of those things,
Uh,
isn't it? You can't play them all.
well, I remember when Hogwarts first came out, and I was desperate to buy it. Like I remember seeing all the videos and the reviews and like all of that hype coming up to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
really desperately wanted to get it. And lucky for me, I have a friend who bought it, and she was like, "Come play it at my place. Like let's do this together first before you decide to invest like
Thank you,
$80."
friend. That's what we need. That's it.
Because I think this year I've spent nearly $300 on like AAA games just coming
Yep.
out. Like you
Yeah,
said, there's so
and
much
can I
coming
just add
out.
there, in Australia, like these games cost like $100. Some of our listeners are overseas. It's $100 for us to buy these games if they're not on sale. It's massive.
Oh
Sorry to
god, I've
interrupt, but
actually
it's like for
done it. No,
context.
no,
Oh,
because now you just reminded me. I bought Baldur's Gate on two different platforms, and I had to pay for it twice.
didn't mean to reveal that. Sorry.
Oh god, I spent like $200 on Baldur's Gate.
Money well
Yes,
worth
so
it.
I think that Hogwarts Legacy is this very specific game for very specific audience.
Mm.
Um, and like you said, I think it's very typical in um, this kind of RPG fashion of um, being very plotting, that it doesn't have this huge like arc up. Um, I'd say that like in terms of its narrative, it isn't narrative driven the way that these other big RPG games are. It's more
Mm.
about focusing on that experience, and they kind of made that clear from the start. This
Mm.
was to try and make you feel like you were finally at Hogwarts, and that's what that was.
Mm.
Not about the main characters, not about Harry Potter, not about Voldemort, not about any of that really.
Mm.
It's about
Mm.
you having that experience and being able to explore that world. I think that then you're kind of drawn into that danger, though, of, well, what's the drive?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have to be the kind of person who does love that exploration and just kind of immerse
Mm.
yourself in this experience that, um, I guess for a lot of us that read the books when we were kids and that watched the movies and stuff, and you've kind of grown up with this, that, yeah, you know what, we were kind of waiting for this moment where we could live out those fantasies. And I
Mm.
think that's what this game is meant to be for.
Mm.
I've really enjoyed
It,
watching my friend play it.
mhm. Yeah,
And I
it's
really
almost like a simulator in that way, isn't it? Like it
Yeah,
feels a little bit
absolutely.
more like a life simulator to me rather than like, oh, what's next, what's next, what's next? Like
Yeah,
there is like a
exactly.
big bad and there is a story, but it's not, you're exactly right. There's no, it keeps pulling you through into the game. So like, oh, I'm going to go do this activity today, or I'm going to ride my broom today,
Yeah,
and I want to
exactly.
live
Because no
that part
one's
of the.
going to die if I take a sleep right now.
Yeah, yeah, no one's going to swear, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
I wonder. I'll pose this question to you, Jono. So, knowing how much like it costs, do you think it's worth
Mm.
buying?
Yeah, it's so I bought it on sale for like $77. I don't regret buying it, but I think if you're out there looking for something and you've got like five games, you're like, oh, these are the ones I really want to play. I would only pick this if, like you were saying, there is where it's you want the Harry Potter experience, where you're like, I just need, your comfort game, or I want to explore what they did. Like I want that interactive Harry Potter experience. I want to fly on my broom around that big sports field. Oh my god, I can't remember what it's called. You know where they play Quidditch.
Quidditch.
Yeah. Or I want, yeah, exactly. I want to go to the bank, Gringotts Bank, or I just want to create my little Harry Potter teenager and explore the world through their eyes. That's fine. If you really, really want that, then go for that because I think this game delivers a great simulation experience that way. But if you're like, no, I really just want something to pull me in story wise, or I just want something like hack and slashy, I wouldn't. It is for gamers who want the Harry Potter experience. And that kind of just slower paced, do a bit of side quest, a bit of main quest, but you'd still enjoy what you're playing, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then I can add that to a long, long list of things
Yeah.
to buy.
Sold. One problem we have with this podcast is we tend to talk about games and then we all tend to go buy them. So we have a lot of poor people on this podcast. There's a helpline for perthgamingcrew.com 333-642. No, it's not. No, not quite.
Worst thing to spend your money on than games.
That's very true. That's very true. Well, we are going to have to wrap up soon, but Thea, I think, I do know that you are looking to do a podcast of your own. First of all, thank you so much for being on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Thanks for having me, first of all, because I've been waiting for this moment. So my podcast is kind of riding off the back of yours, Jono, where it's a lot of game reviews, talking a little bit of analytics on the narrative of games, because as I said, I'm a narrative-driven person. I'm an English teacher, so that's the kind of look into games that we're going for. And it's called GirlsinGaming, and that's specifically because I do think that there needs to be a bit more of a bigger voice for the female experience in gaming. So yeah, if you're kind of out there and you want to listen to me gasbag a little bit more with some other women about our favorite games and some of those changing dynamics in the world of gaming, then go to YouTube or to Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and look up GirlsinGaming.
Nice. Yeah, no, I had a look too, Thea. I think what you do is fantastic. Hope to be part of your show one day, maybe. You never know. Just join on. And
Absolutely.
It's awesome. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Long overdue. And these game discussions are long overdue too, but it's all worked out in the end. Thea, thank you so much. You've got me more excited for Baldur's Gate. And I'll have a think about Diablo 4, but I think really good to hear your views and wish you all the best with your podcast too. But to the people of Perth and beyond, that is the Perth Gaming Crew show with us too. Over and out. Have a great weekend. See you later.